Hey. All good? Sam? Good. All right, good morning everyone and welcome to the council meeting for the 2nd of April. Please join in standing with me for the opening karakia. Tonga. Kia Now, I'd just like to take a moment to remember Bob Todd, who passed away on the 23rd of March. Bob was the former chair of the Hagley Ferrymead Community Board, there he goes. He's also chaired the Canterbury Community Trust, which is now the Rata Foundation, and he received an OBE for his community service. Bob was always grateful for the opportunities that had been given to serve the community. We are grateful for the positive impacts that he has had on our city. Our thoughts are with his family, and if you'll join me please and stand for a moment's silence. Thank you very much. And while we're standing, I'd like to acknowledge the devastating earthquakes that have struck Myanmar last week. Having lived through the earthquakes ourselves, our thoughts are with all of those who have lost loved ones, homes and livelihoods. Thank you very much. Now, Yanni, do you want to have a few words about Bob, please? Will you want to?
Thank you. Just wanted to say a few words in celebration of Bob's commitment to the community. First off, though, I do want to acknowledge we had his funeral yesterday at the Wolfston Working Men's Club, and the thing that came through really strongly was that he wore several hats in life, but despite all that he'd given in the political and in the union movement, actually what came through really strongly was he was a real family man, and so he dedicated his life to supporting his family. And so just wanted to acknowledge Pat, his widow, and his children, his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. He was very much so supportive of his family throughout his life. I just wanted to basically read you a quote from the eulogy that I gave at the funeral. Whatunga rangaro, te tangata toito, te whenua. It's a Māori proverb. Translated, it says, as a man disappears from sight, the land remains. Bob has left us, but his legacy does remain. He was a rock, and as he's been flung into the ocean of the great unknown, the ripples that were created from his leadership have and will leave an incredible legacy of projects that give a significant benefit to the lives of so many in our local communities and in our city. When I look around the area that he served, I see that we're blessed with special buildings, special parks and special pools. Special places that the community cherish today include areas like the Charleston Neighbourhood Improvement Area, places like Avebury House, places like the Linwood Arts Centre, places like Washington Way Skate Park, and of course, who could forget Te Poi Toi Toi, the Linwood Pool. So just a few of the places that not only would they not be there today without the advocacy and championship of Bob at a local level, but what's more important, not only did he support the investment into these places through his work as chair of the community board and as a community member, but he always supported the investment in the people that worked in those spaces, that served the community in those spaces. So just, in conclusion, no doubt Christchurch is a special place, but it is without doubt that it would not be possible without the special people like Bob Todd. He worked tirelessly for the benefit of others. He certainly deserves his rest in peace for a significant contribution to making our world a better place for current generations and future generations to come. And the final note is that he grew up in Linwood, he lived in Linwood his entire life, and as the councillor representing the Linwood ward, what a great privilege to have someone from that community give hope and optimism to the other people growing up in that community that they can make a difference in our world today. So one of his greatest legacies has to be a true champion for the area in which he was born and grew up in and made a difference in. Thank you.
Thank you, Yanni. Okay, right, apologies. I've received apology from Sam for lateness, and I just note that Jake and James are on Zoom. And I'll move it, and Pauline will second that. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you. That's carried. And also, I'd just like to let you know, do you want to do that, or I'll do it? I'm going to advise that we, as per Standing Order 6.8, Item 12, Port Levy batch on public land has been withdrawn from today's agenda as further information is required. So we talked about that the other day, so that's just something that's going to happen. Okay, declarations of interest, we have got none. So, Comboards, good to see you back again. This is great. We'll now hear from, first up is Coastal Burwood Linwood, and Paul and Jackie, please.
Chairs, like you sit on them, your feet don't touch the floor, you go for a bit of a skate, you know. So just a little bit of light heart to start off with.
Mōrena i te kura mātua me ngā kaikanihira, tēnā koutou mō te whakarongo mai kia mātou e tēnei rā me ngā mihi hoki mō tō koutou mahi mō te paenga o tō tātou taone. Kia ora. Jackie.
Good morning, everyone. I'll be a bit more serious now. We've been very sporty in the east over the last couple of months. First up, the House of Hoops series. So Youth and Cultural Development hosted the House of Hoops in Linwood and New Brighton. And there were over 200 rangatahi at each event. So that was very well supported. The New Brighton Netball Club had a Have a Go skills clinic where they looked at footwork, attacking, defence and shooting. And they had 35 juniors doing that as well. And the Eastern Community Sports Open Day had an open day where they showcased local venues, affiliated clubs and offered hands-on experiences in a number of sports. They also had a sausage sizzle and a very community-friendly atmosphere which engaged in families. So these free sporting events are very important to people in the East as they do engage young people and families and increase interest in sport. So just bringing everyone together, and yeah, pretty brilliant to have these events.
All right. On Sunday, February the 23rd, 2025, sorry, that's the wrong one. As part of Pride Fest 2025, Te Pou Toitoi hosted Pride at the Pool, a celebration for everybody on Friday, March 7th. This event provided a welcoming space for those who may not always feel at home in public, especially in the times we live in where the revanchist far right are looking to turn back the gains of freedom we made. It's really important that we have a welcoming space. Highlights of Pride Fest include a movement session designed for the rainbow community, led by Suli from Moana Va and Yvette from Safe Gains. Attendees could also enjoy a swim, relax in the spa, connect with others in a fun and inclusive atmosphere. And roll for Pride events at Linwood and Shirley Libraries happen on March the 14th and 28th, and they offer beginner-friendly sessions of Dungeons and Dragons, creating a welcoming space for storytelling and social connection. And another exciting event was Pacific Dance Group Fitness Class by Moana Vibes, bringing energy and culture to Pride Fest with a vibrant, movement-filled session. These events, along with many others, made Pride Fest a true celebration of diversity, connection, and community across the Waitai area. Now we'll come to our advocacy section. So firstly, you'll receive a petition today from the North Beach community asking for freedom camping to be banned from North Beach foreshore car park, signed by 867 residents. The board support aspirations of the petitioners to have the issues in the car park dealt with in a timely manner and suggest that this particular location is unsuitable for freedom camping, and we need to find a location that is works both for visitors to the area and for the local residents. Finally, I just want to touch on Portlink again. It's still there, and it's still noisy, and it's still ugly. The graffiti on the fence is also ugly, but that will ultimately be dealt with as well. I just want to briefly commend the staff working on Plan Change 20, which would see these kinds of issues avoided in the future, but also to flag to the council that we are very concerned that the changes being talked about by the government could lead to the extension of existing use rights such as this, which could mean places like Portlink could expand. I can imagine circumstances where companies who have repeatedly breached their resource consent terms are still able to expand operations, encroaching on their neighbours, all under the name of quote-unquote private property rights. What this kind of deregulation means is the more property you have, i.e. the more wealth people have, the more power they have to impose their will on their neighbours. It is not really about freedom for everyone, but freedom for a select few. And lastly, Community Board Part A report. Cuthbert's Green, Canterbury softball's new build. It's awesome. You should all support it and be excited about it. Thank you. Any questions?
No, that's very good. Anyone want a question? No? Brilliant work. Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Got it.
Okie doke. So now we have Banks Peninsula. We've got Lynn, and I think I saw Nigel here as well. It's brilliant. Thank you.
I'm in charge of the slides today. Morning, everyone. It's great to be here again, and I'm joined by Nigel and the mystery person in the middle. Nigel's from Akaroa. So you may remember me talking back in October that the board heard from some passionate locals who had a vision, a welcoming hub right in the heart of Akaroa to greet our visitors and support the community with essential information, the Information Centre. They wanted a place that would help people feel at home, guide them to the best walking tracks, and frankly just make life easier for both tourists and visitors and residents. Fast forward to today, and we're thrilled to say that the vision has become a reality. The Akaroa Resource Collective Trust stepped forward and with the assistance of council staff made it happen. They were granted a lease to set up the Information Centre at the Akaroa Service Centre, running as a trial from December to the end of May this year. So that's the summer and the autumn seasons. It's run entirely by volunteers, people who choose to show up, who choose to serve, who choose to be part of something bigger than themselves, and I'm sitting right next to one of them right now. The coordinator, funded by the Trust, is doing an incredible job, but let's be honest, passion alone can't keep this going. We need sustainable funding to make this work long term. In just 6 weeks, the centre has seen over 1,500 people, and those numbers just keep climbing. So what are people asking about the most? Walking tracks, both in the township and across the peninsula, and it's clear that visitors are eager to explore our beautiful surroundings, and they're turning to the Info Centre to point them in the right direction. The Info Centre is right next to the council customer services desk and postal centre, and the collaboration between them is fantastic. The board supports the continuation of the Information Centre after the trial because it matters. It's about more than just answering questions, it's about manaakitanga, hospitality, connection, and doing right by our visitors and locals alike. But that kind of work needs continued support, and we need to find a way of funding our volunteer coordinator.
Now, shifting gears just a little, we'd like to touch on the bigger picture of tourism. The Banks Peninsula Destination Management Plan, or DMP for short, we collaborated with stakeholders and with the wonderful help of Christchurch NZ, who helped through the process to create the DMP. It's largely supported by the committee, a great achievement. Endorsed in 2023, the plan is our vision for shaping the future of tourism on Banks Peninsula, with the priority being around hosting visitors in a regenerative way. Unfortunately, nothing has been implemented yet for the lack of want, not for the lack of want, but for the lack of funding. Tourism in New Zealand is still growing. It grew 12% last year to 3.3 million, and we're still only 85% pre-COVID numbers of the international visitors. And locally, with the completion of the stadium now in town, we can expect even more visitors in the near future. We all know that Otautahi is the place to be the happiest city in the 2024, but Banks Peninsula infrastructure is not coping as it is. We have a good DMP plan. Now we need to be smart in the implementation of it. It's not smart to let this productive market burn itself out through inadequate facilities, community resentment and carelessness. Potentially given Banks Peninsula give them a bad name. We have a window of opportunity now to make sure we avoid that possibility with good governance and implementation. Thank you.
You right? All done questions, is it?
Oh,
No,
no,
no.
we've still got more. I'm next up with backwards
Sorry.
and forwards.
No,
That's
far
right, we are running out of time. Okay, lately we've been hearing from many passionate voices who want to have more provision for young people and for multicultural activities in Akaroa. Ideas have been pouring in, from creating more recreational spaces to organising community events that celebrate our diversity to upgrading existing facilities. We are looking into possible next steps. I'll briefly go over, we were going to have a part A, but that's for another meeting, but I'll just say our process around it. The board had a robust and long discussion about this batch in Port Levy, which is located on council land foreshore reserve. After hearing deputations from the owner of the batch and from representatives of some community members, and taking into account the information we had on the day, the board voted 5 for 2 against, recommending to council to grant a 25-year lease to the batch owner. This is subject to either trimming or removal of the surrounding hedge to enable better access to the beach for community members, and then return the foreshore to a natural state. And like I said, we will hear more on that at another date.
Mm-hmm.
So, in closing, I'd just like to say that with all of this, from the info centre to the DMP, the decisions and the hearings that we have, it's all about helping to create a thriving, welcoming and connected community. Thank you for having us today.
I must say the new wharf is outstanding. The
Yes.
one that's there. Tyrone?
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I'm just thinking, so what quick wins, so you talked about funding, a very small amount of funding, so what quick wins or smaller initiatives do you think could be gained while or when that funding is secured?
Yes, so continuation of the information centres, definitely, 100%. There's one in Akaroa, there's one in Littleton and Wairewa. Just information on data with collaboration with Christchurch NZ, so we know where our pinch points are, where the real problems are, where the numbers are really hitting us, so that we can work on infrastructure. Stakeholder discussions with Christchurch NZ. There's so many ways that we can really sort of progress this without having a huge amount of funding. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
Can I say something quickly?
Yeah.
That comes back to that funding of for those people who are running those centres. There's heaps of volunteers, the bulk of work's there, but there's the lack of budget that Christchurch NZ said they don't have that budget. So we're not necessarily looking for new money. It's just reappropriating the funds. So.
Right, thank you, Nigel, and thanks
Thank
for all
you,
the
Nigel.
work you do in your community.
Thanks,
Okay,
Tim.
so we are well over. Yanni has a quick one. I thought it was.
Have we gone to the government for the visitor levy to be applied to the destination management or the information service centre?
Thank you. Yanni.
Yep.
No, can we?
Oh, who are you asking? Are you
I mean,
asking
anyone
us?
really. Like, I'll keep asking this
We've asked
question.
Yanni asks a lot, and he'll keep asking it. So
It seems a really good candidate to
Yes,
apply to
yes.
that.
I think
new fund.
100% we should be. Yeah.
Okay.
Putting our
We'll
needs
follow
forward.
up with Christchurch NZ and so we can see
So
if
we
there's
get some
any
of that.
funding left over from the money they received to do the destination plan for this, and if there's any follow-up. So we'll liaise with
Okay.
them, and then
But
if not,
You think-
let the board know.
this was that new special one that
There's a
the government put
levy.
on
The
border,
levy that's
the
put
border
on. Is
levy.
that the one you're
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah, the border levy.
Yeah, we don't want to step on toes anyway,
okay.
so we'll liaise with
Thank
them.
you. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Rightio, we've got Sprayden Cashmere Healthcare. Callum and Keir are both here. Yep, good. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thanks for having us back. We'll get right into it. So we've got a part A coming to you guys today around the renewal of the lease for the beach bar at Sumner. Essentially this has been triggered by the lessee wanting to make some changes, and there's the need to change the conditions of the lease around that. We think it's fairly straightforward, win-win-win for the council, the community and the lessee, so we're fully unanimously supporting that part A to go through today. Next up, advocacy. So we're coming to speak to you tomorrow about the annual plan, so we're not going to spoil that now. I'm sure you'll have plenty of annual plan feedback to listen to. But just to give you a bit of a taster of what we're going to be talking about, Particular of interest to us at the moment is the unmarked graves at Sydenham Cemetery, the Port Hills Management Plan, and climate resilience as well as a key issue for our board. Kia, did you want to talk a bit to cycle access at the South Library or the temporary library?
So it's awesome that we've got this, the South Colombo Library temporary facility. It's awesome. We're getting heaps of really great feedback from the community about people going there and enjoying it. One of the ways we know people are using it is people are coming in with some minor ideas for improvement, which is really great because that means that people are going there and they are, taking their kids there. One of the ones is that we are getting some feedback is around cycle access, particularly for people coming from, the south of Tennyson, Strickland, south of Summerfield Street areas where they're, a lot of them are coming up Colombo Street. So we've had, I guess, the big one is that there's, you've got a couple of those big arterials to cross between, obviously, Brougham and then Colombo Street itself isn't that friendly. And there's also some cycle storage issues at the Colombo itself. So we would really love council to think about what are some of the really quick wins that we could get there. Some of them might just be about some wayfinding, some maps, giving people options for safer routes and things like that. So, and maybe some very minor and improvements to intersections and things like that. Bea would just really like to throw that out to council to have a think about, and I'm sure we'll get more feedback from residents over the next couple of months.
Cool. Thanks, Kev. We've also already, back to advocacy, we have submitted on the draft dog control bylaw and policy. And we talked about a lot of things in our submission, but one thing that we really wanted to raise and highlight again around this policy is the estuary. It's something that I think that people in Christchurch can easily get used to, having that estuary there and not really realise its significance. But I think it's always important to remember that estuary is an internationally significant ecological site. It's really, really rare to have such a rich variety of rare and endangered species, mostly birds, that to occupy that space so close to a city. And the dog control bylaw is one of our only tools that we have to control one of the major threats to those animals, which is dogs. And our board is really, really strongly advocating for basically removal of dogs from that space, at minimum to have them leashed, but preferably removed entirely from the estuary area. Obviously, dog owners need somewhere to go to walk their dogs as well, and we'd like to be able to offer another space, a new dog park potentially somewhere around the hills or near where the estuary is. But when it comes to this dog control bylaw and policy, I just wanted to kind of re-emphasise that in this forum as well. We've had some good feedback on the local alcohol policy development. Our board staff and the engagement staff with the LAP consultation ran a workshop in our board area, which is really successful. Got lots of rich feedback from the community. Did you want to add anything to that here?
Just obviously we strongly support the reduction of trading hours for off licences, particularly looking at areas of high deprivation as a really significant place where harm occurs. We really want to make sure that this policy is focused on the evidence about what's going to deliver the best community outcomes. We think it's important to consider how there's going to be impacts on alcohol consumption in private venues, and we also wanted to raise the benefits of consumption at unlicensed premises, which makes it sound like we all think we should all go out for a drink at the pub, which I'm sure
partially is true.
Partially is true, but also, to be honest, the benefit of having that social space where people are also having monitoring and there's professional provision of alcohol in a safe environment, like some of the brilliant pubs and venues in the Spring Cashmere Heathcote area that you should all give a visit.
Yep. And I've run out of time, but I'll post some photos of some cool community events we've got coming up. One's the dog pool party at Waltham Pool on Saturday, 5th of April.
And Sarah had a hand up early on, so far away.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just looking at the few photos back with the Colombo and the library there. So there's a couple of, there's a few car parks outside. They've got a large car parking area at the back. When it comes to the cycle parking, I'm just wondering if we can connect with their transport staff and see if there's one of those temporary stands available. You know, the ones with the green bottom and the yellow uprights that look a bit like Lego. That could be transported in relatively quickly in conjunction talking to the management at the mall there. And
Yeah,
that'd be brilliant.
That's a really good idea.
much better than the wheel benders that are kind of tucked around the back there currently. Yeah. Thanks.
Absolutely.
That's right, because they were made to be moved around. So, okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
See you. Right, Fenelton, Waimari, Herwood, please. Jason and Marianne. Yep.
Good morning, everybody. So, in preparation for the opening of the Council's Strengthening Communities funding round, our local staff held a funding hui last week to provide information to groups on how to apply, funding criteria and general tips for submitting an application form. The Department of Internal Affairs and Sport Canterbury also attended and presented the groups with information on their funding schemes. The feedback received has been overwhelmingly positive, with some groups who have been applying for years saying that they learned something new. It was also a great opportunity to introduce the groups to the Council's new funding platform, Smarty Grants. The group seemed very happy with the new system and felt it was going to make things a lot easier for them in future. A second hui is being held in the evening on 8th of April. Our board also had a good information session with staff about the new funding platform and some changes for the coming funding round. I understand that staff will be making their way around all the boards over the next few weeks if they haven't already. The Inglefield Nature Play Space Project is being led by a community advisory group with support from our local community development advisor, Natalie Daly, and funding from the Community Boards Better Off funding. Following on from discussions amongst the community advisory group, made up of key local organisations and resident associations, the consultation with the local after-school youth group and Belfast School, guidelines for developing a draft plan have been created. Initial feedback has highlighted the following for inclusion in the space: open areas for families and young children, wild bush areas, open space for older children, community planted areas, signage and connections to educate people on the benefits of nature play. Later this month, a draft plan will go to council staff for feedback, and a community advisory group will look to get a consultation concept plan out to the community for their feedback and suggestions. Fresh in the Park 2025 was held on Sunday, the 16th of February at Sheldon Park in Belfast. This was a free, whānau and youth-friendly community event organised by the Youth and Cultural Development Fresh Events crew in partnership with the Belfast Community Network. The event aimed to bring the community together through a day of free fun activities, including free kai and drinks, a pool party, 3-on-3 basketball, henna art, haircuts, DJ and music, face painting, bouncy castles, soft archery, and hair fades and braids. A survey was completed by 70 community members who were mainly represented by parents, caregivers, and other family members of children and young people who attended the event, highlighting their experiences, feedback, and suggestions for future improvements. Key findings of the survey showed that 80% of the attendees rated the event as excellent and 20% as good. Participants emphasised how the event provided an opportunity for families and whānau to connect, helped neighbours meet each other, and created a welcoming environment for social interaction. Attendees highlighted that the event's free offerings included all the activities and free kai and drink, made it especially accessible for families, some of whom may be facing financial challenges. Our board is pleased that the contribution from our discretionary response fund helped make this event so successful, and a big thanks to all those involved in putting on the event. I'd like to finish today by highlighting the great work of one of our local groups. Friends of Corfe Reserve are a volunteer group made up of local community members who live close to the Corfe Reserve in Ilam. Corfe Reserve is a special spot to the group, not only because it's their local reserve, but also because the Otakaro Avon River runs through the reserve. Monarch butterflies overwinter in the trees, and there's a small island covered in trees called Walnut Island. The reserve has many established plants and large specimen trees that give it a very wild but tranquil feel. Council's Community Partnership Ranger has been supporting the group since October 22, and over the last few years the group has managed to remove a lot of pest weeds from the reserve and mulch and plant those areas, which has significantly improved the look and feel of it. We would like to thank the group for all that they do. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Have any questions? No, that's brilliant. I must say, I a long time ago, 40 years ago, I built Corf Street, and I believe back then the land belonged to Christ College and they subdivided it up. So that's way back then. That's when that happened. So if it fails, don't blame me. Thank you. Good to see you. Okay, Papua New Guinea Central, please. Emma and Simon.
Kia ora koutou, apologies from Simon for today. Thanks for the opportunity to present. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on what's been happening in our board area over the last month. At the public forum of our March meeting, we heard from some local community groups doing some amazing work. Together Diverse, Step Ahead Trust and We Are Richmond. We had an update from the transport team working on the Northcote Road pedestrian and cycle facilities investigations. This was a project that we put $100,000 of our Better Off funding towards, and it was good to hear that staff have identified 2 key areas where safety is most compromised. They're now working on a preferred option of shared paths to alleviate the issues at these 2 identified areas. Summer With Your Neighbours events have continued throughout March, with photos there from Harry's Way in Redwood and the Shirley Community Trust Neighbourhood Barbecue. You've heard us talk... Next one. You've heard us talk many times in the past about the amazing work happening at the Richmond Community Garden and Revolution Eco Hub, and it's been exciting to see the early success of their latest venture, a Saturday farmers market. It's the perfect spot for it, with a wide range of vendors attending over the first few weeks, and the Revolution Cafe doing a roaring trade. It is initially just running until the end of daylight savings, but hopefully the early success will see it return later in the year. We've previously had House of Hoops competitions take place in other parts of our board area, but in February the first Papanui event was held and it was a great success. Paddington Reserve saw YCD and Te Ora Hau run a fiercely contested competition with rangatahi having a great time shooting hoops and socialising. February also saw some new accessible housing open in Wesley Village in Papanui. The number of over 65s on the social housing register has more than doubled over the past 5 years and is growing at a rate faster than any other age group. So it's great to see these new homes, which are a mixture of social housing and affordable rentals, to see them completed. They all have a focus on accessibility and also feature solar panels to help keep energy costs down. Park staff and volunteers have again been busy at some of our local parks over the past wee while. With a working bee in Essex Reserve and involvement in the development of Petrie Park in Richmond. The murals are up in Petrie Park and a community barbecue helped gather feedback on the proposed planting plan for the park. And finally, over in Linwood, the Te Whare Roimata Cultural Fun Day was held at Doris Lusk Reserve with over 300 people attending. There was a village market as well as a number of different food stalls offering kai from around the world. Thanks to all the volunteers who supported this event, which helps celebrate the multicultural identity of the inner city east. That's all from us.
That's great. Yanni, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you're doing in the community. I was just wondering if there was any update or progress on the proposed Ferry Road crossing in Phillipstown. It was something that my board obviously was working on, and then the new boards came into effect. But I'm just wondering, is there any update you can give us on what's happening?
It is progressing.
It's progressing. A memo's coming through shortly. There'll be a memo with an update coming through, and it will go through.
Do you know when? Because I mean, I've had questions in on this one for a while as well.
I will follow up with when that is, and I will come back to you.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll keep posted.
Cool.
All right, good. And is that new City to Sea pathway making things a lot more busy for the revolution?
Yes,
They notice a difference.
The cafe, they've brought in new staff, they've extended their opening hours, and it's just blown them away how busy it is since that path opened.
Okay, no, that's excellent. Thank you. Pauline?
You know, if they had the market day at Vogel Street, is that going to be run again? It was
The farmers market.
Yes.
Do
you know?
All I know at the moment is that it was only until daylight savings finishes, but I would hope that they'll restart it again.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. Okay, last but certainly not least is Horsewall Hornby Rickerton with Marie and Helen. See Helen? See Helen? She's gone. Nope. Helen was up there.
Good morning. Apologies from Helen. I've got Bailey with me. All right. So thank you for the magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present the monthly report of the Waipuna Holswell Hornby Rickerton Community Board. Now, up on the screen, we have a photo of a mural that was completed by students of South Hornby School, which represents the different ethnicities in their school. If you look closely at the photo, you will see that there's a simple phrase there on the mural written in different languages, saying, "This is our place," or "This is our community." It's written in Hindi, Chinese, Tereo, Arabic, Samoan, Tongan, English, and of course Filipino. The Parks Unit installed this vibrant mural at Oakhampton Reserve. This piece of artwork acknowledges Oakhampton Reserve as South Hornby School's local green space, reinforcing the bond between students and their environment. Better Off funding was granted to the Holswell Lions Club for its gazebo replacement project. With this funding, they were able to purchase 2 new gazebos, including sidewalls and sandbags. This will allow the club to run its community events, rain or shine, which they have been doing for over 15 years to support different causes. There were 2 community workshops held recently to inform the redesign of the Waikola Skate Park in Hornby, and it was well attended. The board also hosted a community workshop seeking feedback on the proposed local alcohol policy and this year's annual plan. The community feedback was then used to inform the board's submission. The annual Hello Hornby event was held last month at Waikola Park, and it was very well attended. This event was organized by dedicated community volunteers with the support of the Hornby Community Care Trust. Now, this next piece of news is quite exciting for the whole of Christchurch. Now, if you managed to read yesterday's memo from the Parks Unit, you will know by now that the Waipuna Board approved the proposal to locate 2 full-size floodlit artificial sports fields with associated car parking and changing facilities at Wigram Road. You may recall that under Goal 2 of the Sports Field Network Plan, staff identified 6 catchment areas where artificial turf hub placements should occur to provide a well-distributed network around Christchurch. It is aimed to have 1 hub located in each catchment area, and this is the first of 6. I won't go into the details of the plans, as you would have already seen the location plan and concept plans included in yesterday's staff memo. Now, before I finish off, I would like to inform the council that Gamal Fauda, our community board for Rickerton, has resigned from the board. And so I would just like to acknowledge Gamal's contribution to the community, the city, and the country. He has done a lot for the whole of Christchurch and the country, promoting love and peace around the country. Thank you. Right.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Right, that's brilliant. No. Oh, sorry, Jake. Didn't see your hand there, bud.
It's understandable. Hey, just in light of that resignation, Marie, with a year to the election, I understand boards can appoint, but the practice would normally be that you just wouldn't appoint someone to save some ratepayer funds. Do you know what the board is planning on doing there?
No. So we just received the official resignation of Gamal this week. So board will be presenting, the staff will be presenting advice to the board at the next meeting. So we will see. I understand because it's within 12 months to election, there is no by-election. The board has two options. One is to leave the seat vacant, and the other is to appoint somebody to the board. So we will have to wait for staff advice on process for this one.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jake, and thank you very much for coming. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you to all our community boards. I'm more than happy to move that, and Pauline's more than happy to second it. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Aye, against, thanks, that's carried. Now we have some public forums. I'd like to welcome Dr. Dave Carter and Dr. Catherine Hode, who are joining us online. Is that?
They're both there.
Good. To present their recent research on the economic and wellbeing value of live performance in New Zealand. Welcome.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for your time. Ko Catherine Hode taku ingoa. So we're both lecturers and researchers here at the Pukeahu campus of Massey University here in Te Whanganui-a-Tara. And we're going to briefly speak today to the findings of a project we released late last year titled Measuring and Articulating the Value of Live Performance in Aotearoa. Could we have the next slide, please? So over a period of 18 months, we worked with the live performance sector and audiences across the motu to build an evidence base for the value of live performance in Aotearoa. This work was funded by Manatū Tonga, and it involved surveying 13,000 audience members at 323 events across all regions of Aotearoa between June of 2023 and July of 2024. We then surveyed another 5,000 people from the general public to produce a representative sample of attendance at live performance in Aotearoa. We analysed 743 annual reports of live performance producers. We analysed Te Taiohanga, the Treasury's budget papers, and we spoke extensively with sector stakeholders and undertook whakawhiti kōrero with audiences.
We have the next slide, please. This extensive and really detailed data enabled us to put some very large numbers, $17.3 billion, to the benefits associated and contributed by live performance activity in Aotearoa using cost-benefit analysis. Can we have the next slide, please? Probably more importantly, we were able to show that for every dollar spent on live performance across the motu, $3.20 in value is returned to the community in benefits, including economic, social, and well-being. Can we have the next slide, please? These benefits include 60,500 jobs created, $3 billion in profits retained by businesses all across the country, $209 million in taxation revenue derived from about a $75 million more of government spend on live performance. And in total, those economic benefits contribute about 1.4% of GDP. Can we have the next slide, please? We can also show that volunteering contributed $1.2 billion of value through the generous contribution of time that those folk make to live performance. And if we go to the next slide, that live performance contributes about $7.5 billion in wellbeing benefits using the Treasury's own modelling. All of this is detailed a lot more extensively in the report. Can we have the next slide, please?
So what we wanted to use this brief time today to speak to is aspects of this research that were particularly pertinent to Christchurch and to Canterbury more generally. I think this is particularly relevant because you might have noticed on the front slide that we had a researcher from the University of Canterbury who was also part of this project. So shout out to Johnny Wilson. So this includes factors such as the role of performing arts in contributing to community resilience and wellbeing. We know that this was particularly important for the producers that we spoke to in terms of the stronghold that the arts continue to represent in the wake of trauma in Canterbury. As well as Christchurch having this really strong emerging brand as a cultural and creative hub, particularly amongst young folks and families. So we know from the research that Christchurch has a really unique opportunity for targeted sustainable investment in small to medium art spaces and venues as key cultural infrastructure. And there's a real opportunity here for a planning approach to deliver cultural precincts that have protections for sound and accessible amenities. We know that that's an opportunity that's not currently afforded to other cities across the Motu. But without these protections, Christchurch's aspirations to become a cultural powerhouse and the city's cultural identity could be at risk of being undermined. We're really grateful for the opportunity today to share this mahi with you all. We're excited to the opportunity to hand these numbers over through the report and really opening up Kōrero about what those next steps could be and of what help we could be to you. Could we have the next slide, please? So I know we've got some brief time for some pārtai today, but if you're keen on continuing these conversations, please just drop us a line at that email address on the screen. So ngā mihi nui, thank you for your time.
Very good. Timothy.
Yeah, hey, look, thank you very much for the work that you've done. Just a slight reminder that Christchurch has always been leader in creative arts, go way back to the 50s with Max Merritt and the Meteors and others, Ray Columbus in the 70s, etc., etc. But the question I have is, does your research link up with the metrics that Christchurch NZ and the associated groups that we have connected with them when we calculate value to the dollar spent in Christchurch?
I don't think we can't speak to how those two things link up. We can speak to this research uses like the standard treasury modelling for what a cost-benefit analysis is. So assuming that same modelling is being used, then yes, it aligns.
Thank you.
All right. Good. Dead on time. Thank you so much for making the effort to come and talk to us. Wonderful.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'd now like to welcome Anne Farrell, who is here to talk about freedom camping at Broad Park Road. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Anne, and my husband and I live at 3 Broad Park Road, and we've lived there for 10 years. We wanted to retire in this house, and we had lots of plans for when we retired. But last year we both retired. However, last year our life took a turn for the worse, and that was when Broad Park Road was turned into a camping ground. We could talk about the normal things like the mess, the inconvenience with no parks. However, ours is a different problem that is affecting our health and our quality of life. For us, it is the noise that these vans create night after night. I've given a little leaflet there for which my husband has gone through every night and written down our wait times through that night. Out of the last 140 days, we have only had 25 nights of unbroken sleep. And in the balance, we have 83 nights of being disturbed once a night, 33 nights of 2 or 3 times a night of being disturbed. This has caused a real issue for us because we have to sleep late and our bodies are struggling to get up and go. Seldom are we ready to go in the mornings till at least 9:30. The motivation to do anything is just gone. I have looked at the websites for all over New Zealand, and there is nowhere else in New Zealand that these campers are this close to a residential house. These people are camping 20 metres from our bedroom. That's 37 steps away from our bedroom where we sleep. We wanted to retire to this house and make memories with our grandsons that our children have made with their grandparents. I'm sorry, this is very emotional for me because I'm very tired and stressed. We are now not sure what to do. We have had quotes for double glazing to help with this noise level, but with the cost being $24,000 and there is no guarantee that it will end our problems. My husband has also decided if it doesn't stop the noise, we will have to take all the jib off our bedroom walls and put expensive noise control bats and jib on the walls. This was not in our plans to update the house. We are now having to rethink our plans and work out where do we go from here. Do we sell and destroy all our dreams, or do we stay and just put up with this, which is really not an option? We love our little home and want to spend our retirement here in this home, to spend time enjoying the sea breeze and the sea noise as we go off to sleep. We can no longer leave our bedroom windows open at night because the wood make the noise even louder. I have issues sometimes with sleeping, and sleep for me meant in our egg chair on the patio. But of course that's out of the way now. I had a small stroke after a very stressful time in our life, and I worry that this lack of sleep and stress could have another one. My husband is a classic car enthusiast and was quite a few projects in the garage. However, he feels with the lack of sleep, he no longer feels inclined to do anything that he can't, because he can't do the intricate details that some of these cars need to fix. And these are his pride and joy. So, as you can see, this is truly a cry for help from us. We are truly at our wits' end and have nowhere else to go. We don't want to live on Broad Park camping ground, but we do want to live on 3 Broad Park Road. So I guess in summing up, we want these people from camping on our street. By reinstating the camping restrictions that previously was in place and getting our lives back so we can once again retire in peace. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was very, very moving. I know exactly where that park is. I used to play down there when I was little.
Yeah, so did I.
It used to have massive trees.
Yeah.
We're just, Mary and I are just looking at the Google Maps thing to see well, I know where it is, but just to show where it is. So we will look into something there, because I feel your pain. I feel what you're having to put up with. So, and I'm sure the people with the petition coming up next will be talking a similar sort of story in some way.
Yep.
So, Mark, question, please.
Sorry to hear of what you're going through there. Have you made many noise complaints through to council on these?
The time of the night that these happen, noise complaints isn't there. My husband has done a couple online just recently, because it is, as I said, getting to the point now we just at our wits' end, we don't know what to do. He has a bowel condition and he needs to get up several times a night anyway, and now once he gets up, the rest of his sleep is broken as well. So for him it's a big issue, and for me also.
Really sorry to hear that, and hopefully our team can help you with something there.
Kelly, and then Pauline.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this to our attention. What are the rest of your neighbours saying?
The rest of our neighbours have houses where their bedrooms are at the back of the section, whereas ours is, as I say, 37 feet from our bedroom. Our house is, I think, maybe one of the only houses in that street that have their bedrooms so close to the front of their homes. We do hear our neighbours complaining about the noise, and, well, not so much the noise, but the disruption to their life with the mess and the people doing the things that these campers are doing. So it's, for them, it's a bit of a different story, but for us, this is really impacting on our health. And yeah,
what about rubbish and things like that?
Occasionally, we've had them leave stuff in the car parks. We had a couple 2 nights ago now. There were 2 vans with a park between them, and all day they sat there and cleaned out their vans. And when I came home from taking my grandson home from school, there were like 10 rubbish bags full of rubbish sitting in that park. The chap that comes around to check on people also stopped and did talk to him, talk to them, and eventually they did clear all the mess away. But as I say, for us, we could put up with that if we could just get some sleep and try and get our lives back together, really.
Okay, thank you. Pauline?
Similar, I was just going to ask if maybe reducing the size of it so that they couldn't park around your house, would that help?
Well, they park, there's usually 10 at least vehicles parked along that street every night, so the whole street is taken up by them. I don't think having a certain amount, they won't use that anyway. There is a little area down at the end of Broad Park Road that is like a recessed part, whether or not they'd park there, but then they're further away from the toilets, which they want, which is why they park outside us, because we're directly above those toilets.
Thank you very much for coming in and bringing that to our attention.
Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no deputations, but we move on to petitions, and I'd like to welcome Kim Money, Trudy Burrows and Jo Zervis, who's here in her personal capacity, to present their petition regarding the ban on Freedom campers in the North Beach foreshore car park. Welcome. And I'd just like to say before you start, is that one of your supporters behind you with all those kids?
Absolutely, aren't they
fantastic? If my grandchildren were that quiet, they get a free ice cream.
You're paying.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, councillors, staff and community. We are here to present to Council a petition on behalf of 866 plus concerned residents and key stakeholders of the North Beach foreshore car park. We're asking Council to ban freedom camping in this area. As been said, I'm Kim Money. I'm the chair of the North Beach Residents Association. With me today is Trudy Burrows, coordinator of the New Brighton Community Fridge, and Joe Zervos, our Coastal Board Community Board member. Joe organised this petition at our request and is our group's liaison person. However, Joe is here on a private capacity. We also have apologies from Dean Lawarn, the North Beach Surf Club captain. So for some context, slide 1, you will see that this is the area that we're talking about, and I hope that all of you actually know where this is. So the North Beach car park is located between the North New Brighton War Memorial Community Centre and the North Beach Surf Club. There are only 42 marked car parks plus 5 accessibility parks. There were 57, however, Council without notice removed 15 to use as a third footpath, which has now created dangerous space and has exacerbated the issues. The key stakeholders who rely on this car park are the North Beach Surf Club, beachgoers, community groups and events who hire the hall, the North Y board riders, North Beach Coffee Shed customers, beach wheelchair and beach mat users, schools across the city for beach and surf programs, with only 42 car parks. These parks provide access to all these facilities and activities. Can we have the next slide, please? And Annie, I'd just like to acknowledge you too, so we're right with you. But the reality is, it has now been turned into a camping ground, and 866 plus have had enough. Please note that 866 plus is more than some years' submissions on the annual plan, just saying. A temporary weekend ban from the 1st of October to the 1st of May was initially put in place a few years ago until a permanent ban was changed in the bylaws. But since COVID and increased visitors to the country and promotion of the area by council and other public arenas as a great place to camp, the increasing presence of freedom camping is causing accessibility and health and safety issues, such as, you'll see them up on the slide, you can flick the slides through as you like and keep flicking those through if you like. Beach toilets, outdoor showers and drinking fountains being used frequently for washing dishes, laundry, that would be undies, etc., and personal hygiene. For example, shaving legs and cleaning teeth in the drinking fountain, cleaning cooking gear and leaving food scraps in the drinking fountain and the shower area. As this is a family audience, I would just say weekly birthday suit showering. Yeah, that's what I said. Right in view of families having picnics at the large beach table. The public beach toilets and changing rooms are frequently left in a disgusting state, overflowing council rubbish bins and freedom camping also putting their rubbish in the neighbours' personal rubbish bins on Marine Parade. Alcohol consumption and an alcohol ban area. Campers often set up tables, tarpaulins and cookers and monopolising spaces in adjoining car park spaces beside them and the footpaths. Large camper vans often take up 2 car parks and therefore cause access issues in and out of the parking bays. The freedom camping parking congestion limits local access. Residents have made many complaints either to their local elected reps or myself as RA chair or to the council. It would appear that when a SnapSend solve is sent or a phone call is about freedom camping related issues, these complaints are distributed to different departments, and the reality of the situation is not produced in the council stats. You will no doubt appreciate that taking photos of freedom campers doing personal hygiene issues would be problematic. Apparently, a definition of freedom camping is just staying overnight. However, if you are still there in the morning and not breaching a bylaw, but stay all day, it's parking. 866 plus say they are camping. This is our reality and experience. The bylaw rules are confusing and not well publicised. Also, the council resources to monitor those bylaws on a regular basis are very limited and clearly not working for our community and visitors. And another impending issue, Williams Corp have purchased the Ozone site right opposite the hall, your facility, on the corner of Marine Parade and Bowhill Road. 50 apartments, only 26 off-street parks. This will further exacerbate the problems. Therefore, and finally, 866 plus, because people are still signing it, concerned residents and key stakeholders request that the Christchurch City Council Chief Executive place a temporary ban on freedom camping in the North Beach car park until the bylaw can be changed and a permanent ban can be enforced. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Celeste, got a question?
Thank you for coming in, and also thanks to Anne for coming in. A couple of really quick ones. Where would you like a ban to start?
Tomorrow? No, honestly, the residents, if there wasn't a problem, we wouldn't be here.
Yep. Are you looking for all year or over summer?
All year.
All year. And in terms of, we had a briefing recently. Have you seen the stats around what was put into that?
Actually did happen to watch online about those stats, and I was absolutely flabbergasted. I think, as I've said, staff just don't have the resources to get down there and to do their thing as often as necessary. We, the residents, we have our own stats, which is actually what is happening, because I think when they get down there, either they've gone, it's too early or it's too late, and so therefore we're not getting a true indication. Plus what I said to you about the complaints that are going into council are going to separate departments, so therefore it's not being put under freedom camping. Plus, I thought I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, when yourself and Joe or any other member of the community board or council get complaints, apparently that's second or third information, which isn't taken on board. Now, I think that's a real shame, because this is why we have elected reps to represent our concerns. So,
thank you.
Melanie, please.
There's no parking restrictions in that car park, is that right?
No.
Would that help? I mean, I know you want...
That would be, in my opinion, that would be a step further down the track. At the moment, the issue is the freedom camping, and that needs immediate attention. The limited parking, when Williams Corp come in, that would help that, if there was like a 3 hours or no parking overnight, because we're going to get residents parking in that car park once they're built.
Okay.
Yeah, a question for legal. On that request, does Mary have the power to enact a temporary ban in the requested area with the agreement of the council table? Like, is it as simple as the request being made?
She's just a wee bit tied up.
Well, it's a question for legal.
Yeah, that's right. Question for legal. Are we allowed
I can answer that. There is a power.
We'll look in.
Because I think we did that.
There is a power to the chief executive, but there is some criteria around its exercise, so we would have to provide some advice around that.
Okay, so when will we receive the advice?
It's being looked at the moment.
So is that like hours, days?
Weeks? More like days, weeks, yes.
Because Councillor Donovan has already raised this issue previously with us, so a few days ago. So
We've been on already.
We have been looking at it.
Okay.
Right.
Yanni, please.
It seems to me that there's a massive issue with the parking, like putting aside the concerns around the actual impact of the rubbish and all the other behaviour that you've talked about. Just thinking about the parking situation, is there a need, like the time restriction, like if you had time restrictions, then obviously people couldn't stay overnight or more than 2 hours or 3 hours or something like that. And then also where council in town has put in parking charges also to discourage people from accessing it, like the gardens in Hagley Park. So have you had any thought around the wider issue around what could be done around parking just to try and mitigate in the short term some of the problems?
Those would be more problematic than they would, and the council just don't have the resources to monitor it. It would just cause all sorts of chaotic problems. Things are getting quite heated in that car park. So the simplest and probably in the long term the cheapest solution is to actually just ban the freedom campers. We're talking 42 car parks. It's not a lot, but it needs to be made available again to our public.
So I was just picking up on your point though, that there's a whole bunch of new residential without enough car parking, so they're just going to go and park.
It would be as well as, not instead of.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Tim, please.
Yeah, thank you. And the term freedom parking, obviously it's a cost to the local community, which you've proven, and so is this young lady here, so thank you for coming. Part of, freedom camping, you hope that the economic benefit to the community kind of raises, which obviously there's a cost over reaching that. Has anyone looked at Hawke Street and the large car parks behind the mall? The mall shops are struggling. One would think that if you had the freedom campers in that area with better facilities, that hopefully some economic benefit would flow over to the mall. Is that unpractical or?
Apparently they're not allowed in there anyway, but just one thing I would like to, one thing I'd like to say is I phoned the South Brighton Camping Ground in the weekend to say, hey guys, how are you going? How's the freedom camping, or how are the motorhomes, etc. They were full over Christmas, which was great, but they said at the moment they could definitely do with a whole lot more motor campers in there. Plus they're also right beside the red zone, so it could be cost effective to perhaps allow them to extend their space. Plus we've got the Spencer Park car park, of course. But Trudy is from the community fridge. She's right there on Hawke Street. You got anything to say about that?
Yeah. There's a few things. Especially as far as like, do they bring any money in? What we're finding is like Anna's got the local coffee cart there, but people, because they can't get access, aren't going there. So her business could possibly be going down. But because the campers don't buy coffee, they sit out there with a little Primus, so they're not buying coffee. But what I'm noticing at the food bank, they are coming to us for food. And that really but we actually have to say to them, look, I'm really sorry, we don't have enough food for our local community, let alone feeding people passing through.
So they can afford to come to New Zealand, have a holiday and buy a van, but they don't want to go and buy any food and take it off the people that really need it.
Yeah,
that's appalling. Thank you very much.
Okay, right. Thank you so much for bringing this in. And one thing that you did touch on very slightly was the wheelchair mat access. It's the only beach really that's easily done. There are other ones, but that's pretty level. And I know a number of people that go there and use it because it's cool. But I just going back to what you said and what Anne said, Akaroa has got a space which is nowhere near houses, and they encourage people to stay there, freedom campers to stay there. It's good. And I know there's some land adjacent to Latimer Square, which is going through the Minster at the moment, to encourage freedom campers to come and stay there, because I look at it from a point of view, I know they're a pain in the neck, I look at it from a point of view, they've got money in their pocket, they'll spend some money somewhere, but we just don't want them there because they're stuffing everything up. I have always been a fan of, and I know Celeste is, I know Joe is, and Kelly, about either latching onto the side of the South Brighton motor camp, because we don't want to, that's how he makes his money. We don't want to ruin what he's got. Mm-hmm. Whether we could make some land of ours available for him to look after or use, or he gets a little bit of money off it, that might be better, because I had that thing in my head about Ells Terrace, and that it needs people to sort of watch it and see what's going on in South Brighton Car. And when you said it was right next door to the red zone, of course, there's some spare land next door. That may be something we can look at, because we don't want to scare them away totally, because it's what makes the place fizzy, but we don't want to stuff it up for everyone. And as you say, you've got the new development across the road is not going to help the situation either. So thank you very much for coming in, and Celeste has a question.
I was just picking up on the points raised today. Can we get advice on those matters raised, including the temporary ban and the Broad Park one? So obviously both areas, I think we're looking at requesting a ban, and also those other matters that were mentioned today. If we get advice on that, please. Yeah, Thank you.
Already written it down.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, can I just mention, give you a bouquet, all of you, with regards to the accessibility mat. In the weekend, we do a collaboration between the Surf Club and our Residents Association. Council have contributed funding towards that to be able to purchase the containers and mats and stuff, which we're very grateful for, and also maintenance. But this weekend, we had an email from a gentleman who lives in Auckland, and he came down to visit his brother who was extremely ill. Now, this gentleman sent us an email to say that he hired the beach mat about 3 weeks ago for his brother to take him for a walk from North Beach to Waimari, beautiful Friday afternoon. And he just wanted to thank us very, very much for that public service, because his brother died 4 days later. So, you guys, you help provide something like that for our community and for our city, and so good on you. Well done.
Okay, and lastly, Sarah.
Just since everyone's talking about the beach mat stuff, just that you know that there's planning underway for an accessibility beach mat in Scarborough.
Great.
And the local community group have been fundraising and working with staff to get them involved.
It works very well down there.
Yeah.
Well with it.
Just following up, Phil,
Who said you could speak?
I did. I gave myself permission. I had an email yesterday from Chris Wagner from Kiwi Camps, who does these
camps, and you spoke to him about the Els Terrace proposal years ago. And he's actually coming down to Christchurch on the 15th and would like to meet with some people and discuss what he does, if that is possible.
Well, please put him in touch with my office, because I'd like to be there and see, and we'll take Kelly and Celeste and you guys as well. More the merrier. Good
Thanks
to see you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for your time, guys.
Wonderful. Right. We now have item 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, which are a group of open and PX minutes. Can I have it's Kelly will move it and Andre will second it for those minutes. All those in favour? Aye, against, thank you, that's carried. So now we have the Part A reports for the Cuthbert's Green. I've read this, I think this is very, very good. So any questions of staff who aren't sitting there? Yanni.
Just saying I was happy to move this.
Okay, good, excellent, good work. And Kelly will second it. Yeah.
You'll remember the Rafferty one with the building. Does this fit in with the parks management plan, or that it's permitted to have a building? I assume it's going on a bigger footprint than the existing.
So Rupert will
Yes, it is. It fits in that. Yep.
It's all good.
Yep, all good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Aaron?
Just a question from of staff. Rupert, is there enough room for the building amongst the geese poo? We've got a geese issue down there on the grounds. Is that being addressed? Like, it's great this facility's going in, but jokes aside, the
To be honest, that's the first I've heard of a major geese issue there. I can look into it further.
okay, I'll send you the photos of the bottom of someone's shoes.
Sure.
Okay, brilliant.
Bit
Thank you.
grumpy.
So, thank you for that, Aaron. That's very good. I'll put that motion as number 11. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you. That's carried. And the next one, item number 13, the beach hospitality, I'm sure will go equally as quick. Has anyone got any questions that they'd like to ask on that? I'm happy to move it. And Tim's happy to second it. So I'll throw that out there. All those in favour of item 13, please. Aye. Against? Thank you. That's carried. Right, staff reports.
Say on that one though, I mean, it's great to see this. It's one of the top spots in Christchurch, and it's great to see it being improved. You know, it's
Yes, the tenant wanting to put money in.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
good.
it's really good to see.
It's a great result for sure. Okay.
Do you want to have a wee break now before we get into the meeting?
Actually, we haven't had a break for a while. What are we up to?
Might be a good idea, especially we've got council stuff following up on the Brighton stuff.
Well, dare he say we're certainly going to get out of here before lunch? Dare he say that? Do you want to keep going? Keep going? Right, keep going. Thank you.
Right. So the 2024-25 resident survey results. Basically what I'm going to do is just quickly run through the context behind the results, how we did this year, overall satisfaction, and why people scored it the way they did, levels of service target achievement, higher and lower satisfaction services, then some additional analysis on our transport network results, a little bit about our reputation and trust scoring, and then some sentiment scoring. So factors that contribute to the results this year, there are those that are outside of Council's control, and some of these have been around for a few years, but inflation and bank lending rates are starting to come down. But we do have government cost cutting that is a presence in the community. Supply chain issues still have impacts across operational and capital works. We've had executive leadership changes within the council with a focus very much from the current executive leadership team around making improvements based on previous results that we've had. So the resident survey program measures resident satisfaction based long-term plan levels of service targets. We've got two main components: the general service satisfaction survey, which measures services that all residents use, and so we've got the likes of roads, water and waste. We had 784 responses this year to that, so it's a representative sample. And then a range of point of contact surveys that are carried out over the year with services that have more defined user groups, so the likes of resource consents, events attendees, library users and the like. And we had just under 9,000 respondents there. And then we do a booster survey to target some of the groups that are perhaps underrepresented in some of our other surveys. So it's been a year of achievements, which is great. Overall satisfaction is up 7% to 53% from 46% last year, and that's a statistically significant result, so it's very much a genuine result. Proportionally more services met their targets than in any other time since before the earthquakes. More services improved their ratings by 1% or more. We had the lowest number in 9 years with reduced satisfaction scores on the previous year. And one of the things that's also really positive to see is that the core areas of concern have improved this year. So road condition, water supply quality, governance and decision-making measures, and measures of reputation and trust, and particularly leadership of the mayor and councillors and openness and transparency, where both saw agreement increases of 8% each from last year. Yet obviously issues still persist. The reasons for dissatisfaction remain unchanged. So we've got the roading and disapproval of council spending, but what I would say there is that the proportions dissatisfied have reduced. Reputation and trust measures, while they've improved, they still remain a challenge, particularly people's perceptions of value for ratepayers' money, and the council making wise spending decisions. But again, each of them have improved this year. So overall satisfaction, as you can see, we've got that uptick there. So for the last few years, we've been seeing slight improvements, and this year a jump of 7%, which is great. And if you can see, it hasn't come from the more neutral respondents. It's actually been a reduction in dissatisfaction, also of 7%. So that's good to see. Why are people satisfied? So council is seen as doing a good job, and that's up to 15% of all comments, which was slightly higher than last year. And happiness with the services provided, which again was slightly higher than last year. Why are they dissatisfied? Unhappiness with the roads and road maintenance, and that's down to 13% from 17% of all comments last year. Disapproval of council spending down to 11% of all comments from 14% last year. And we're seeing a reduction in the number of dissatisfaction comments too. And those least likely to be satisfied, Pacific peoples and those aged 50 and over. And that's just a graph showing some falling proportions there around disapproval of spending and rates increases. And spending is still an issue for those aged 65 and over. So this one shows that more services are meeting their targets compared to last year. As I said, the highest proportion since before the earthquakes, at 84% meeting their targets. A quarter didn't meet their targets this year: wastewater reliability, water supply responsiveness, walking friendliness, footpath condition, community parks, and content and delivery of events. I'm not going to go into detail on this slide, but what it's really showing is that there is that disconnect between target performance and some of our other measures. And if you look at positive sentiment scoring and overall satisfaction over on the right, there's still a reasonable gap that we're seeing between the two. Back in the 2015 LTP, we were looking at a 3% gap between the two. It went up to a 20% gap in the 2021 LTP, and for the first year of this LTP, that gap's reduced again, which is good to see, to 12%. So, higher satisfaction services, I won't read those all out, but what I would say there is that, as in previous years, success is closely tied to our customer service excellence. So especially where people see that staff manner and support is high and that they're being listened to and that staff are helpful. Facilities that are liked by families, and where there's good or improved maintenance and the reliability of service delivery. So areas the council delivers best. What we're seeing there is for the last 5 years, it's been the same services. So we've got waste management, parks, reserves and green spaces, and libraries. So waste management, people like the reliable and efficient 3-bin system. They like the fact that we fix bin issues promptly. And the parks and reserves, people like the fact that they're well maintained and see them as great spaces for the city and that they keep the city looking beautiful. So service satisfaction trends since last year. We can see there that 54% improved and 19% stayed the same and 27% worsened, which was lower than the previous year. So those that improved 4% or more, again, I won't read those out, but it also shows those that worsened 4% or more. And what I would say with the ones that did reduce 4% or more, they were still reasonably high scoring. So it's not like they were very low and slipping even lower. They did all still have relatively high levels of satisfaction. So lower satisfaction services, so these are the ones that score 50% or lower. Again, I won't read those out, but what I would say there is that water supply quality is no longer one of the lower satisfaction services, fewer mentions of taste and odour this year. And like with higher satisfaction services, the reasons are closely tied to customer service issues and expectation management. So where people feel the council isn't listening, or we're prioritising nice-to-haves at the expense of core services, or where people see there are asset maintenance issues, or where expectations aren't necessarily matching the service delivery cost realities that we have. So the areas the council needs to improve, and again, you can see there with roading, that's been the key area for improvement for many years. This year, parking has come onto the radar again for people, and a lot of that related to parking issues in Hagley Park Botanic Gardens and people not liking having to pay for that parking. Roading reasonings there are ongoing patch repairs of the roads and recurring potholes, the uneven surfaces and disruption caused by roadworks. And those were similar issues to last year. And then council decision making and financial management, disapproval of council spending, people wanting there to be more financial control within the council, and where they feel that the council isn't listening to resident needs and priorities. So, road condition satisfaction and perceptions of safety on the roads have improved since last year, but they're still quite a bit lower than ease of travel perception. So we're seeing a bit of a disconnect there. People are saying that they're not satisfied with the road condition, but when you ask them how easy it is to travel around the city, you see up there that 80% say it is easy to actually travel around our city. And ease of travel is high for all age groups and was especially so for people who walk. Road condition satisfaction was lower for those aged 65 to 79 years. Footpath condition also has improved, but satisfaction decreases with age, and you've got the issue there for older residents where there's mobility issues associated with uneven and cracked footpath services. But again, walkability of our city is still quite high at 74%, so it doesn't sort of match necessarily with perceptions of footpath condition. Reputation and trust, all of them went up this year. We have an average reputation and trust score of 31%, which is an improvement on last year's 27%. And the average negative rating went down to 35% from 41% last year. And this is basically just showing that the areas where there was the largest increases this year, which was the leadership of the Mayor and Council, councillors, and the council being open and transparent, which both improved 8%, and the green ones, the green highlighted ones, are the ones that are the highest scoring, and the red highlighted ones are the ones that are the lower scoring ones. And what I'd say there is that while there's been improvements, which is great to see, reputation and trust still remain a challenge for us. Resident sentiment scoring. So we've basically what I do here is I take every single sentiment score that people give across the resident survey program each year. So we had over 82,000 scores, individual scores this year by over 9,800 residents, and 65% of those scores were positive. That was up 1% on last year. The scoring across long-term plans, positive sentiment scoring was lowest in the last LTP. Overall sentiment scoring across the 10 years is 66% positive, so that's almost 400,000 positive scores. 17% are negative scores, just over 100,000 scores, and the average overall organisation performance satisfaction rating over those 10 years is 54%. And then just leaving you with this one, which is the sentiment scoring by ward that I do each year. So we're seeing Fendleton, Central, Hornby, Papanui and Banks Peninsula sitting above, either at or just above the Christchurch average, and those that are below the average or well below were Spraydon and Linwood. And I need to do more digging into what's going on with Spraydon and Linwood, but what I have seen is that their overall satisfaction scores are lower than the average for the city. So
right,
that's it.
So we've got some questions. But before I do questions, Kath, that's absolutely phenomenal. The amount of work that you've put into there, a significant amount of work. Yeah. When you say, right, I'm going to start doing the next resident survey, how long does that take you? And I know that stuff comes from a lot of different areas and you get students in to help and stuff, but is that 4, 6?
So I've often said it's a bit like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. You no sooner have you finished painting in one direction than you're starting in the next. So I've already actually started the preparation for this year's resident survey program, because it's definitely our biggest research program in the city, and probably would be bigger than I would think probably many other or most other surveys that are run in the city. So it's a big undertaking. We do have the students that come on over the summer months, but to be ready for them, there's a lot of preparation work that has to go on behind the scenes to get ready for that surveying. And then some services we're actually surveying right throughout the year.
No, excellent work. Well done. So we've got Kelly first.
Thank you. Really fascinating stuff. Given the fact that our City Council staff, as we found out yesterday, seem to be a lot happier with the organisation that they work for, the City Council, and the way that is trending, and their appreciation of leadership, etc. Do you do any linking between the staff satisfaction and the satisfaction of the residents of the city? Because that would be an interesting comparison.
Yeah, it would.
As to trends.
We haven't done any direct linking. But what I would say is I think when you've got a more stable and calmer staff base, I mean, people can get on and do their jobs delivering services for the city. And we have seen over time, if you overlay different leadership regimes in the organisation, you can see trends and movements in that overall satisfaction score. But I think it's really positive to see that across a number of areas this year we're seeing improvements. So resident survey, staff survey, objective levels of service scores have also gone up. So I think it's very definitely a genuine improvement that we're seeing.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering whether you could actually, at some stage, potentially put together that metric of the general service satisfaction with a similar, staff satisfaction. Because, like you say, I mean, a happy worker is a good worker, and or a good worker is a happy worker, or vice versa.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tyrone?
Thank you. Just some questions about just statistical reliability. I'm just wondering about like the sample size. Are there any comments that you've got to make on sort of margins of error and that kind of thing? And the reason I ask is because, so let's say in Banks Peninsula, 21 respondents. So anytime one person's really dissatisfied with anything, I probably know them, that's 4.8% of respondents, and sort of just some comments on that.
So with, I mean, I put those ward results up because I've been asked for them in the past, so you like to see those, but I do recognise that where you've got small numbers of respondents, that can be a challenge. A general service satisfaction survey, so that's the 784 respondent survey, is a representative sample with a margin of error of plus or minus 3%, 3.5%. And that was where, as I was saying at the outset, that overall satisfaction score, that the improvement of 7% is actually a statistically significant result.
Yeah.
So that's where, when
Overall,
they've actually put it through the survey programs that actually look at significance, it is a genuine result that we would expect to see if we ran the survey again. But yeah, at some of those margins, those results are there for you to see, but
that, I mean, that's good. Thank you. No, I understand that. And just one more, please, Your Worship. But I mean, looking at the, just talking about statistical significance, in terms of the satisfaction with the leadership of the mayor and councillors, the Banks Peninsula number is like off the charts better than all the other community board areas. Like, I mean, it's just like 4 times higher than the next best one. So is there any kind of anything under that you sort of...
I don't have any particular comments on that at this stage, but yeah.
Ready? Good work. Yanni, please.
Thank you. In the newspaper article around the resident survey, I think the press got a special briefing, and there was mentioned that there was concern about the Botanic Gardens Hagley Park car parking charges, but I haven't been able to find where that's expressed in the survey. I've tried to, obviously there's a lot of information, I've tried to read through it.
Yeah.
Are you able just to highlight to our attention what that feedback was?
Yeah, so that will be feedback that was specifically in the surveys on the Botanic Gardens and Hagley Park. So we have a lot of open-ended comments that go to the business units, and I can't quantify it at this stage, but it was a theme that was in there, that people were not that happy with those charges. So I'd have to look into the exact numbers of comments for you.
Okay.
But it's in there. So it doesn't necessarily show in the general service satisfaction survey open-ended comments that you've possibly seen. It's more in the individual surveys that were done specifically at point of contact at those parks.
Sure. And was there any concern in those comments around people not knowing that it was coming in, or were people aware of it?
I think that people were probably aware of it, but there were comments, for example, about you know, it's one of the few free activities for people with families, and they don't have much choice but to bring cars if they've got young children, and that they're just unhappy about the fact that they're actually having to pay for parking in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And did you pick up anything on the freedom camping issues that we've had expressed?
There wasn't anything specifically.
Right. Okay.
No.
And the final question is just in regards to the people thinking that they've got influence over our decisions. I mean, it's still 2/3 of people see it as small or no influence over our decisions.
Yeah.
Do we know how that benchmarks against other councils in terms of trends?
We are pretty consistent with other councils. Like we ran the quality of life survey in the last year, and our results are not too dissimilar to experiences that are in other councils in terms of perception. So we definitely don't. We're not an outlier there. Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
And Linwood, it's roads, odour, organics, wastewater. You know, like there's some really big issues in Linwood that we know about, which do generate people being pretty dissatisfied with us.
Yep. Samuel?
Yeah, hey, thank you for that, and it's good to see it heading in the right direction, which is awesome. I just had one, and I don't know if we can go back to the slide. It was just where we talked about the 27% on roading, and then followed that was the decision making. No, keep going back. That one.
Sorry.
No, that's So 10% council decision making and 27% roading. I just wondered if you had a view on whether they're correlated.
Are they what? Sorry.
Are they correlated?
Not necessarily. Although I mean, what we have found is that the key driver of overall satisfaction with organisation performance is people's perceptions of roading and the dissatisfaction with the maintenance of that. So you potentially could tie them together. I mean, one of the things that we do see is that there is quite a disconnect between people's perceptions of roading and other issues around it. Like they say they want the roads improved and they want that done faster, but they also don't want us to spend a lot of money, and they're not happy with rates increases. But as we know, fixing roads is really costly, and to do it fast is even more costly. They also don't like the disruption caused by road repairs. So we've got a real tension there in that how we actually manage those expectations and communicate the issues that we face with residents is definitely an issue. And for that reason, I think they are linked, the dissatisfaction with spending with the road conditions, because people might say, for example, spend more on roads and less on the nice to haves. But then we've also got people who say spend less on cycle lanes, and then there's others who say spend more. So there's just a constant tension, I think, that we're facing there.
So just thinking about looking at the data, because I agree it's such a reliable data set in my mind in terms of how we can guide decision making. What do we, and I know in the report it's talked about the heads of service will go away and have a look at, I guess, what they can do. You know, when do we sort of, if we're looking at how we can move the dial, clearly the thing that stands out is the 27% on roading. What are the next steps for us as an organisation in terms of a bit of an action plan on, you know, I know we talk about it sort of every year and we've made progress, but is there a way to really supercharge that to help drive it? Because that has sort of that benefit of everyone is happier.
I think I'll let Mary comment too, but I mean, one thing I would say is that communicating exactly what it is that we're doing, and I think it's an ongoing communication exercise. It's one thing to say in the LTP what our plans are, or even in an annual plan, but we've got to communicate that throughout the year to people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that roading has been an issue for many, many years, even around the time of sort of before the earthquake. So it's sort of been a bugbear that people have got, and I suppose it's because they're driving on the roads every day. But yeah, I think communicating more about exactly what we're doing, but also the challenges we face. If people want the roads fixed, they've got to accept there is going to be ongoing disruption. And if they want the roads fixed faster, that's going to be at the expense of other services we deliver, unless they want to pay more in rates. So I don't know, Mary, whether you...
really good point.
I'd only add that ELTR next week got some planning time to look at results across these surveys and identify key priorities for the year going forward and further. And that's across the surveys and the performance results. And then also engaging with heads. Heads have already had a look at this. Kath presented, was it last week?
Yes.
I can't remember, a week ago. So then drill down there. So we're going to do exactly what that is.
Okay.
What has moved things up to now, and what are the areas that we need
what
to
will
put
move
more
the dial
movement?
again for So in terms of when that would come, and not necessarily when that would come back to us, but how that would come back, is that going to be, because I almost think it's like it's a standalone report as opposed to coming through just our performance reporting?
Yes, and I think, and we will talk to Peter and Kath as well about potentially getting some information to overlay with the information that's coming back on the annual plan and priorities.
That would be good. The other thing, and then I'll shut up, Phil, is just
You
it would
walk
be
in late and start talking.
it's usual. It would just be really good to compare it also, because I think this is so useful in terms of the trend.
Yes.
But I'd love to see how we are sitting against in those key areas against sort of the major metros as well.
Yes, the quality of life survey gives a lot of that, doesn't it? Kath?
Yes,
So we'll
yes,
be
it
able to
does.
report,
Yeah.
So could
But
we
yes, I
overlay that
can
into
look
the-
in terms of the likes of road and condition and others too.
Yeah,
Yep.
be good just to get that comparator, because we can't really compare against sort of small districts. We've kind of got to compare with our peers. So yeah, great, thank you, and really good work. It's great.
Pauline.
That's mine particularly as well. Great minds think alike. But I was actually going to ask you to explain the whole concept of the disconnect there and what we do about it. So you've pretty much done that, and I think you've couched it in communication. But does it sort of really indicate that people don't really have an understanding of the organisation when they're saying that they're criticising spending, criticising the roading, but don't want to spend money on it, and then other people say it's easy to get around?
Yeah,
So
and
for
look,
us-
I think that is an issue, and I think it's a real challenge for our decision makers to actually handle that, and that people often have conflicting views on things that at times don't necessarily match. I mean, obviously, if you want roads fixed, it's going to cause disruption, or it's going to cost a lot.
So if you sat down with someone and asked them these questions about the survey, and then went a little bit further and said, so you're dissatisfied with your road, would you support council spending some money to fix it? And that answer would indicate something. It's a yes or a no, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? You've got to this is almost too high. And you've got to go down a little bit further.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, I suppose, that's one of the challenges that we face with the resident survey program, to be able to delve in real detail into some of these things can be a challenge given the scale of it. But it would be very interesting to do more work in talking to people about the issues of disconnect and expectation management, and what actually does form their opinions, and how you would actually then go about changing them. Because I think with some it can be quite difficult to swing people around. And I've said it before, the reputation and trust measures. Reputation and trust take a long time to build, and they're very easy to lose. And when you lose them, again, a very long time to bring them back. So I think sometimes with some of this, we're seeing a lag as well.
No, that's interesting. Yes, yes. So it takes a while, once changes are made, to actually see that effect responding.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Jake, are you still there, buddy?
Yep. Mine was actually more for debate.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Okay, down there, Jake. Okay, Andre.
Thank you. Well, remind Councillor Fields, I think 21's a great sample. That's about half the population of your ward. That's perfect sample.
That's the beauty of it.
The question's the same one I asked the last couple of years when we did this, in that we get information broken down by community boards, but not wards. And like for me to find this, for this information to be presented to me and be useful, I really kind of need a lot of it to be broken down by ward, like whether it's satisfaction of footpaths or road and whatever else. Pools will be reckoned into totally different areas with different issues. So there's 175 samples here for footpaths, for example, for our community board. Like, why am I not able to access the breakdown for each of those wards?
For the general service satisfaction results, we would go down to the community board level, but generally speaking, for good, robust ward level data, we would need to increase the sample size quite significantly, and there's quite a significant cost involved in that. I understand that's a challenge.
Size, I guess. My question is about accessing the data that's already been collected. So the data's been collected by ward, and then it's been grouped into community boards.
Yes.
I'm after the data that was collected by ward, so I can get a feel for the satisfaction of those different types of things in my ward.
Yeah. We can have a look at it and see what we can do, but that would probably be mainly around the general service satisfaction results, the results that were collected from that survey.
Because what I've gathered the last couple of years is I'm not, in a sense, I'm not allowed to access that data by ward.
Yeah, but this is don't forget, this is for the whole shebang. I know
it is for the whole shebang, but I'm none the wiser on what the satisfaction levels are for roads or footpaths, whatever else in my ward. And the information's been collected with that, and I'm not able to access it. You know what I'm saying?
We're going to look at it.
I guess just to remind you that as a council, you're here to govern the city, not to govern.
Yes, I understand that. We're also here to represent a ward, and like if we're collecting the data, and I'm not able to access the data that's been collected, it just.
Okay, righto. We'll look at that. Aaron, then Mel.
A couple of completely different ones. It would be quite nice to have.
There's a question in here, is there, or is this debate?
I would have thought a question.
Okay, good.
Because I'll take my pitch up a little at the end, so it sounds like a question. It'd be nice to have a question around if people had the choice, would they live somewhere else as well in the survey? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people go, oh yeah, I hate my city, but I wouldn't move anywhere else because they're very parochial. They're a little bit, cities can be a bit like families, can annoy you, but you'd not have it any other way.
Well, I mean, we potentially could look at that, although most of what we're doing is surveying levels of service targets. Right. So this survey possibly isn't the best mechanism for that. Our Life in Christchurch survey, we could probably look
more
at that.
Okay, and then the other one is around the road dissatisfaction. The complaints I get aren't over so much now over road condition. That's levelled off. The ones are like particular intersections where you just can't get through, or you're waiting for multiple changes of light, so it seems just unnecessarily congested. Speed humps, lack of parking. So, but that gets lumped in with road. People are dissatisfied with the road.
Yeah.
And boy, do they whinge.
The road condition question is specifically asking people about the condition of the roads. Where they would be combined is the reasons for dissatisfaction with organisation performance, and that lumps roading, issues they've got with roading, like the ones that you've said with road maintenance issues. But the overall condition of the roads is a separate question that specifically asks them about the condition of roads.
Melanie?
I was wondering if you had any feel from the survey about why Pacifica people may be more dissatisfied than other communities.
Not in any particular detail, because again the numbers are quite small. I think we would need to be looking into that in more detail, and probably the resident survey program itself would not be the best mechanism for doing that. I think probably focus groups or something that was a bit more face-to-face would probably be a more appropriate way to investigate that.
Okay, and then Tyrone, then we'll go into debate.
Thank you. Sorry, just on the roads thing, like, so, I mean, most roads are in the city are controlled by council, but like Banks Peninsula's main drag is a state highway, which, you know, that's NZTA's responsibility. Do we, when someone complains about a pothole or the condition of a road, do we know what sort of road they're talking about, whether it's a state highway or a...
No,
Yeah, so-
we really literally ask them about the condition of the roads, because I
Right.
think most people probably don't necessarily distinguish between the two.
Right.
But you're right, there is a difference in terms of who has control over them.
So, for example, someone might complain that the Littleton Road tunnel was a bit dirty, but you know, we can't really do much about that. You know,
Yeah.
that's a waka kotahi
Yeah.
thing. So it's kind of hard to. Can we tease those things out in future?
Yeah,
or-
although, I mean, ones like that, certainly in terms of where they've made comments, I haven't seen any that are sort of at that level of like the likes of the Littleton Road tunnel. Most of it is around the ongoing patch repairs of the roads and potholes.
Right.
But again, whether they're
is a
state
big problem on
highway
State Highway
related
75,
or
yeah.
our own local roads.
Okay, cool. No, that's
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, we're going to debate. We've had so many questions. I know it's a short question, very long answer probably, the question you asked. Anyway, Celeste, would you like to have a question, please?
Just looking on page 92 or 97, depending on how you read it, just looking at the number of respondents and around how often have you cycled, have we looked into sort of the relatively low uptakes in some parts of the city? Because I can looking across the different areas without drilling into the detail, it seems to be that the areas that are least serviced by decent, safe infrastructure have the lowest uptake.
Yeah, that would probably
namely
be the
Banks
case.
Peninsula and
Yeah.
coastal Burwood Linwood.
Yeah, but we haven't looked in any detail. As I've said, I mean, the main purpose for the residents survey is to survey at a fairly high level around resident satisfaction targets in the LTP. There's potentially a whole program of research that we could do under that to drill down into all of these to find out more.
And I can understand that. I just think in terms of direction of travel for investment, this might be a useful thing to pick up when we get the report back about where we should prioritise some of that.
Yeah.
Because when people don't feel safe, they don't participate there. Therefore, it might drive a lower satisfaction in that level of service.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm happy to move this and Pauline's happy to second it. So we'll go into debate or discussion if anyone wants any. Now, Jake, you had your hand up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is great news. It's a sign of what we all know to be true, which is Christchurch is at the peak of, well, hopefully not the peak, but heading towards the peak of a real boom in that cycle that all cities go through. It's also a testament to the great work that we do here and that Mary and ELT and indeed everyone contribute towards, and maybe even my colleagues as well. And I think it's yet another sign of how we're feeling as a city. The ward-specific stuff, following off the back of Tyrone's question, I mean, that is something that's only put up for our benefit. At that scale, or at that level of granularity, it's not really that robust. For example, Central is regarded as being the second most satisfied ward. While I highly suspect that's true, looking at one Fendleton, I can't imagine that people are overly pleased with Jamie Goff's job performance. So there's little things like that are obviously going to be inaccurate, but on the whole, that high level data is really, really good. And then with regards to accessing it, I suspect when people fill out the survey, they do so on the basis of anonymity. So I'm not sure we could just dive in and pull out those bits and pieces. So anyway, great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Mark, please.
Thank you. What a great trend we're getting in this
survey. I think it's all great to see moving in the right direction. I'm really blown away and thrilled to see the stellar mover of this in the way of ward. Hornby is incredibly satisfied compared to what they were in the previous survey. 18% or 19% of improvement. Wow. Hey, it's kind of what I'm picking up out there in the ward. People are really happy with where we've come to in the last 12 months. When you think back 12 months ago, April, we opened the Maratiki Hornby Centre. That in itself really made the ward smile. So having the wins in the wards like that makes a big difference in these sorts of surveys, and it's good to see that people are feeling happier about council and what we're doing. And let's keep up the good work, and I'm really keen to see the ELTs dive into the numbers and see if we can figure out how to even make these satisfaction numbers look even better in the next time round. So it's a great trend in the right direction, and let's keep up that trajectory.
Yanni, please.
Thank you, and thank you to staff for the work that they've done on this. I personally do think it is useful to get the ward data to as most granular level that we can. If I look at my ward, I mean, what we know is, the organics plant moving has been delayed. Last night at the community forum around wastewater treatment plant, residents were advised that it may not be till 2029 that they get some relief from the new activated sludge being up and operational. And we've also had a number of people being really concerned about the condition of the roads, particularly post-earthquake repairs, or not having earthquake repairs and still being in bad shape. I think we got a report a couple of weeks ago that said I think we had about 83 years to go before we got our roads back to the condition they were before the earthquakes hit. So I do think it's important we do consider what's happening with roading. I certainly welcome getting the more detailed response over what we can do. I think what's really important is we do tell people the story of what we've been through, because clearly we've got a long way to go. And one of the issues that we do need to grapple with, which I'm sure we'll do through the annual plan, is the idea of rating for renewals or simply continuing to borrow. But at some stage, we need to get on top of our renewals. In my view, that's probably the single biggest reason, alongside the patch repairs after the earthquake instead of the proper renewals, that has led to such a declining satisfaction in our roading. Just in conclusion, though, I do want to highlight one thing that's really positive, and that is the increased view of the transparency of council. As someone who worked for a long time to get our workshops and our briefings and our information sessions opened up to the public, I think it's really heartening to see that despite the concerns that people have raised at the time, actually what we've seen is the benefit of taking that approach, where we are seeing a shift in people's perception of how transparent we are. So I just really thank staff for the work that they've done in that space to enable us to do that. I think it is a positive step forward. Having said that, I do remain concerned that still 2/3 of the public feel that they have little to small influence over our decisions. And I think we still need to continue to look through. If you read through some of the comments, you do find people feeling like sometimes we're just going through tick box exercises and they're worried that we have predetermined views. So I think we still need to do a bit more work in that space. But thanks to the staff for the work that they've done. It is useful to get the information. I personally would like to get a lot more detailed information broken down by ward. I think it is helpful to us as elected members.
Cal?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I really think you've got to take the wins when they're offered. Satisfaction in 2022 was at 42%, and it's made 3 data point jumps to 53% and corresponding drop in dissatisfaction. So, look, I think it's fantastic. 3 data points is a trend. It's good to see that overall satisfaction is a lot higher. I don't think that we can separate this from the staff satisfaction survey or survey that we saw the results of yesterday. A happy worker is a good worker, and I think we owe a real debt of gratitude as a city to Mary and the executive leadership team, and in fact every worker who works for council, because really we're riding on their backs at the end of the day. They're the ones who actually do the work and put in the effort day in, day out to get these things right. And I've certainly seen a real willingness amongst them in all my dealings with them that they are really open and willing to improving and to doing the best for our city. So I think we should take this as an endorsement of the staff that we have in the organisation. And I'd like to publicly thank Mary for her leadership, because I think that stability that she's brought in the time that she's been the chief executive has made a real difference. I just don't think we can separate these. I'd also like to congratulate the elected reps, all of them, community board people and councillors. At the end of the day, from what I see, we're all local, committed and engaged, which is also my election slogan for next time. Yeah. But I guess the challenge is to keep this going. Obviously we've come a long way from the hangover of the earthquakes, but we're still affected by it. That's why we're getting all these new buildings and new facilities, and that's why there's a lot of disruption in the city. But we're moving forward, and I think it's a really, really positive thing, and I'm certainly happy personally to be part of it. Thanks.
Tyrone.
I too would like to speak in favour of the staff recommendation. There's actually nothing that I can say that Councillor Barber didn't just say there. I mean, I believe that we live in the greatest city in the greatest country in the world, and therefore the greatest city in the world. But we can always improve. There's always things that we can do to improve. It feels like we're heading in the right direction. I too want to give a shout out to all the members around this table. I know they all work incredibly hard to deliver for their residents, and we can't do it without the staff either. So, and Kelly, you said it very, very, very well. So there's probably no need to reiterate that. But we've got a very strong CE, very strong senior leadership team, and great staff underpinning that. So it's very positive to be a part of, and onwards and upwards for us, I think.
Sarah.
Kia ora koutou. Again, reiterate what others have said, and thanking the organisation for their incredible mahi. It is interesting to note, as Councillor Johansson did, that the things that the residents love most about the city and are most satisfied with are the things that the staff do. The things that they are least satisfied with are the things that we do. And so we need to work on that as elected members and focus on promoting that engagement instead of bashing each other publicly. I think would go a long way to building that trust and confidence in us and our decision making. We've had these surveys before. They're really useful to feed into our decision making, especially when it comes to the long-term and annual plans for where we're looking at investing our money. And we've had the information back, so we had it back before the long-term plan last time, on how we invest our money, but we still fail to invest enough money into both the systems and the actual capital or operational investment into renewing our infrastructure. And that's especially obvious to residents when it comes to our roads, because they drive on them every day. It's less obvious with our water pipes, although that reactive space for maintenance there is also not particularly satisfactory. But if you think about the last transport report we had, just in the middle of last month, across the network, sealed roads need more than 7% of rehabilitation works as at their end of their useful life. Current funding of about 3.8 million achieves 0.11% rehabilitation annually, about 2.4 kilometres, which infers that we are about 83 years behind in our required rehabilitation and reinstatement works across the network. We know that we've got more information coming up about that. It also says that they cost more to maintain than to renew once they get to that stage. And yet we still, having had this information in the past, fail to put enough money on to enable the organisation to do this work, to smooth our roads and actually do more than just patching. So I'd like to see us make sure we actually address that instead of continually kicking the can down the road in this annual plan.
Samuel.
Yeah, thank you. Look, first, I think this is a really good result for the city, and we're a conduit for the city, or a mechanism that operates within the city. But actually, the sentiment of people saying, we are doing things better than we have is a really good thing. I think, and it'd be no surprise we think about the questions I was sort of trying to delve into, and I've just acknowledged the team for that. Is we now need to look at the things that are really going to move the dial. And actually, if 27% of the concern is around roading, then we need to be more deliberate in our transport program. I think if people are saying we need to do the basics better and target that investment, then that's hopefully what that report says. I think our biggest challenge, and we've seen it for probably 3 or 4 years, was when we add too much to the work program for transport that diverts them from doing the basic stuff really well, and then we punish them when they don't do everything well. So we set them up to fail if we're not letting them be really focused on a particular set of work. I think if we actually sort of took all the other stuff away from it and genuinely just focused on some key things to move that dial, the city would thank us for it, and I think that's what we should be looking at. So with a bit of luck, that report will reflect that, and then we will need to feed that into the annual plan and then long-term plans going forward. But, as everyone knows around this table, we've set the organisation a challenge of making a realistic capital program, and we can do that. Actually, it's not necessarily just putting more money on budget to fix stuff. It's about ensuring that we're not distracting the organisation from trying to do a million things and letting them do the 3 or 4 things really well that will move the dial. So I think if we can get that thinking into it, that actually we can focus the money we've got into a system that generates the best return for the city, then that'll go really well, and hopefully we can reflect that in the annual plan. But big thank you to Mary and the team, because I think, as Kelly mentioned, that stability at an organisational level has allowed them to deliver significantly more than we have. And I think all too often, they become the meat and the sandwich between often us and the public. We're always the ones that will take the good news, but we're the first to point the bad news at them, and actually they can't often defend themselves. And I just think it's really useful when we get good news like this to acknowledge that, not only have we had this, but the staff survey, which show that people enjoy working for the city, they're proud to live in our city, and actually the trend is going in the right way. So long may it continue.
Pauline?
Just quickly, because everything has really been said, but it would be remiss of me not to actually also congratulate the council team, the councillors and the chief executive and the staff for this report and the report yesterday. It is a significant move of the dial in the right direction, and it is continuing to do that. And also, while we're talking roading, we've got to look at the note that the satisfaction there in roading has improved by 6%, so we're on the right trend there. But, you've got this disconnect thing, which I was quite fascinated with, and when you're looking at, you're wanting to fix, the roading we're talking about, but not spend the money. And to do that, you have to sacrifice somewhere else. So it's kind of like whack-a-mole, and you're going to find the bit that you sacrifice, people are going to say, hang on, you stopped doing that in my area. So we've also got the balance of where do we increase investment and where do we work within the same envelope. So that's also another challenge. So I hope people can appreciate the challenges that we face sitting around this table trying to please everybody. And we know we're never going to please everybody, but doesn't mean we can't try, and we are trying. So, I'd just like to give big ups to this report and the trend that the organisation is taking. And thank you, Mary, and your team particularly.
Good. Right. Yes, Aaron.
I'll just make it real short, because like Pauline said, everything's been said, and this is positive. So I too will thank the staff and the ELT and Mary's leadership. But also I will point out that the 3 upward ticks that Kelly referred to have come in since Phil's been mayor, and we don't often give Phil that many accolades because it's always fun to punch him a little, and jibe. But in seriousness, he's not your atypical political sort of person, and probably that mayoral, but he's done a great job. And in all seriousness, the evidence is there. The ticks have gone up. He's delivered, and so for that, Phil, thanks very much, mate.
Cheers. Thank you. Right. I'd just like to go along with what Sam said. Just a little bit for a start. We've got that thing of the roading's the worst, so we've got to hit the worst thing the hardest. That gives us something to really focus on, and it may come at the cost of other things, but that's the one that's the standout. But first of all, I'd like to once again thank Kath and her team, because, man, you had some really good answers there for some questions. I don't know if I could have done it, but especially the whole team led by the young lady on my right. If it wasn't for her marshalling the troops around and getting it together, we wouldn't be where we're looking at today. phenomenal amount of work's gone into this report, and it is good to hear. But we will always have an issue, a big issue to deal with, and I'd just like to think that we're doing them quicker and better than we have, and that's what it's showing. And to coin a phrase of what other people have said, we're certainly heading in the right direction. So I'm more than happy to put this motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you. That's carried. Under 8, no.
Just before we break, can I also acknowledge Kath and the team? This has been a phenomenal amount of work that you do all regularly. As you said, you've just finished one, you start another, and you're right across every single detail of it. So fantastic work.
Now, we haven't got very far to go, but it's 22:12, so we'll go until 5 to 12, please. Have a cup of tea, and then we'll rip through the rest of it. Remind me not to eat sausage rolls that fast, Mary. Right, we're up to number 15. Brent. Request to seek extension to plan change 14. I'm happy to move this. It's just housekeeping, really. And Sarah's happy to second it. Have we got any questions? Because we've all read it. No questions. So, yeah. Your question, Tyler, and...
Yes. So this here sort of assumes that council wants to opt out of MDRS. This council hasn't made a decision on whether it wishes to do that or not. So I guess my question is, would that be the first step in this before seeking this, which presumes we're wanting to opt out, whereas we haven't made a decision to opt out, or made a decision to signal out a want to opt out, if that all makes sense.
Through you, Your Worship, with respect, it doesn't presume that. It presumes that council wants to have options. And simply it's saying that we need that time available to have those options available.
So that in a sense presumes opting out?
No. With respect, no.
No?
But by options, we mean making a decision of which option to pursue, one of which is opting out. Yeah. So it's not presuming that the council has made that decision. Yeah.
Tyler? And then Yanni.
Just for clarity, this is only related to MDRS and not the MPSUD that's been...
That's correct, yeah. So the bill at the moment does provide for, or proposes to provide for, an avenue where a council can seek to opt out of both the parts of MDRS that have been decided, as well as the undecided parts. And there are quite a lot of prerequisites around that. Of course, MDRS is baked in, so to speak, with all of the residential zones, which are also influenced by MPSUD. So there is an overlap that exists that's there, but that's only under the scenario where council chooses to opt out of everything. Doing so would require, very likely to require another whole plan change. So we remain to wait and see what options are available under the Act.
So just to be clear, what's the timeline for the MPSUD being implemented?
There is none. As of Friday, the Minister has announced that they are no longer progressing with the revised MPSUD because of the significant amount of national direction that is being progressed. And so, I guess, with respect, we wait with bated breath to see where the Act lands.
So what does that do to the rest of the resolutions that we've put forward in regards to the other components that were sitting outside of the PC14 recommendations?
They remain unchanged. So effectively what the government's saying is that the MPSUD at this stage isn't being modified. It is as per what we decided in December. So there is no change to that. So there's no modification to what we've already decided.
Great. So my main questions were relating to Antonio Hall and the sales yards. Are we saying that that is in place in terms of the historical provisions being...
Those are subject to an alternative recommendation. So council chose to make a decision on those specific sites. We have yet to hear back from the Minister on what the determination is of those. And so this doesn't relate to that at all.
Okay, great.
We'll find out once the Minister responds to our request.
Great. No, it's a lot clearer. Thanks.
Wonderful. Yanni, please. Oh, done it? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
fine.
Righto, so I think we're in pretty good shape. I'll put that, we've got a mover and seconder. I'll put that motion, all those in favour? Aye, against? Great. That's carried, thank you very much.
Thank you.
DRF, Discretionary Response Fund for the Project Littleton Incorporated. And Tawhiti Unlimited Discovery. I'm happy to second. Now, just very roughly, the one for Project Littleton, really to somehow, and we've got to look at it, you don't say, it's just to make life easier as far as traffic management goes. Are we heading down that track?
I might just ask my colleague Stephen Wright, who knows more about it than I do, just to let you know what the updates are.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon all. I think the money they're after at the moment is to
fund their traffic management for the near future until they get to grips with the new traffic management rules. We're working with Project Littleton to reduce the amount of traffic management needed and for them to try and take it in-house to reduce cost further moving forward.
Yep, no, that's good, because otherwise it's just burning money up, isn't it? So that's great. Okay, Aaron's got a question. And then Pauline.
Yeah, this would seem to be something that's incredibly simple was made quite hard. So they block off a street to run the market. Is it not as simple as you just have a global plan that lasts all year or until the market's cancelled, and then there's 10 cones at each end and 2 signs get put out and the local community do it? And then...
So what those through the chair, at the moment they have to do that 50 odd times a year.
Right.
So there's a fair amount of labour involved. They have to set them up first thing in the morning, then demobilise in the lunchtime afternoon. So there is a fair amount of work there. But through the new rules, we're working with them to simplify and to get Project Littleton and their volunteers to be qualified to do the work themselves rather than outsourcing it. But they need to upskill and do a few courses to enable them to do that safely first. So what they're asking for here is to continue the status quo until they're in a position to do that.
Right. Okay, Judy. Pauline?
Just can you clarify around the new the NZTA requirements? So they became more stringent, and are they going the other way now?
Through the chair, the new code that's come out is to put more responsibility onto the organiser and to be more risk-based. And when you look at an event in Littleton, the same event happens every week, so the public should know about it. So in terms of risk, I think it's relatively low risk, whereas previously the rules were a bit more hard and fast and you had to do certain things, whereas now we can look at it on a risk-based approach and say, do we really need to do that? Is the risk that great there? And I think in my view in Littleton, the risk is relatively low and we can reduce those costs under the new rule.
But that's in place now.
That's yes, but we need to work with Project Littleton to enable them to do that.
So in other words, the risk is being transferred from what was council to the operator.
To some degree, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, because this is only 30 of the 50 that they've asked for, so
yeah.
Are you anticipating that they may not need that full 50, or they'll have to get it somewhere else?
Sorry, you can answer this.
When we talked about it at the panel, we thought that the 30, and they're in agreement, the 30 will get them through to exactly where Stephen's saying, where they'll be able to, the training will be done, the upskilling will be done, and they will be able to do this a whole lot cheaper. And when we went back to them with the 30, they were very comfortable with that.
Okay.
That's good.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Tyler, then Tyrone.
Kia ora, guys. Just public knowledge again on that guy. Could you talk to me about Autawhiti and their proposal?
Yeah, I can do it.
Can we...
I'll wait for the...
Yeah, sorry,
that's
can we
fine.
just sign that one
Wait
off?
for Littleton? Okay. Yeah,
Is that right?
Oh no, they're both in the same resolution, so.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Yep.
It's the same report.
Yeah, so this proposal came forward through Autawhiti School, and it's for a community play space. So the benefits are for the students of the school, but also the wider community, so visitors and the growing number of residents in the area. It was co-designed with the students, and due to the lack of park amenities within walking distance of this area, it's aimed to fulfil the need for green space and recreation in close proximity to the school and the neighbouring residents.
Love it. Thanks so much. And how much is remaining in the DRF if these get approved as they are today?
Approximately 100,000.
Cool. Sweet. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, I'll probably have a recommendation around Te Autawhiti at some point.
I thought this was going to be the easy one. Okay, so Tyrone, will you just wait? Yeah, we're good. Okay. I've got you, Yanni, straight after Celeste.
It's just a very quick one, just to understand the traffic management side. things like retractable bollards, would that then remove the need to put in place temporary traffic management because you've actually got a physical barrier?
Through the chair, that is an option that was considered, but somebody would still have to go out there to stop the traffic.
Oh, sorry.
While they
I'll just repeat the question. Sorry, I was a bit quiet. It was around the fact that for temporary traffic management and would retractable bollards solve that problem? And if so, what's the cost?
So through the chair, we did look at that option, but somebody would still need to go out and stop traffic and then lift the bollards. So that we've investigated options to try and put as much permanent infrastructure in as possible to make it as easy as possible for them on the day. And we're going to continue doing a bit more work in that space as well. But retractable bollards weren't necessarily the best option.
Sorry, and just one further. I've seen the bollards because I saw someone standing on one and it started rising. Are they not automatic? No. Okay.
Not in Littleton, no.
Yeah, Yanni?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand where the new green space was going to go.
Yeah, so that's on Mollett Street. So it's one of the lanes that is out the front of our Tawhiti's reception area.
Okay, so but is the green space going on the public road or it's going on the school land?
So it's on privately owned land. It's not public council domain.
Right.
School led.
Yeah.
Okay. Have we talked to the Ministry of Education about, like the adequacy of what they're doing in terms of this?
When staff spoke with our Tawhiti school, they had approached the Ministry of Education to ask if they could support a project like this, and the answer was no from them.
Right. And is there any concern, the President, that would set for us to do other public developments on school sites?
That was a question that also our staff panel considered, and where we saw alignment with council strategies was because of the wider benefits that are intended for the general public as well.
Right. And so this space will remain open 24/7 for residents?
Yes, that's the plan. Okay,
cool. So just, to be aware that we've had a lot of issues in Kiwi too.
Yep.
With what's happened with the public access for the schools. But I've looked at the map of this and I can understand the need for it. The other thing that it seems that it would be a really good candidate for a neighbourhood growth project. We've got money on budget for urban parks for growth, given that one of the justifications in here is the increased intensification of residential with very little green space. How do we get these sorts of projects added to the list so that they get funded through the development contributions?
That's an interesting point. I'm not familiar with that exact route of funding, but when I approached our parks unit, they advised that they would be unlikely to spend money on a play space that's not on public land. So that was the advice we received from that perspective.
Right, that's great. Thank you very much. Now, so we've got a mover and seconder. There's no more questions. Is there any discussion? As I'll, Aaron? Oh, sorry. Yeah, you.
Okay.
So what are you saying here? You want to up it from 12 to 18?
Mic on, please.
Oh, sorry, Jake. I'm foreshadowed pushing it to 18
Is it?
instead of the original 12 for Aotafuti.
I've said I'm happy to include it if Phil is. There's enough
Gary?
money in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are we getting? If this happens, Gary, where do we get the extra dough from?
The extra money is in the fund.
Do they need it?
Okay.
It's there.
Well, something else doesn't dip out. Okay, so we've got, all right, one at a time here. Pauline wanted to do a question. I said no, so you go, Pauline.
Yeah, just that they currently don't have any other funders, contributing to this. Is there any other source of funding that they could have? Because
Yes.
normally we do look for other funders, not just council.
Yes, so anecdotally, they have passed on some updates to staff. So they have received funding from a few other places and have some other applications underway that are pending. And they have done some recent fundraising to secure some of their own funds. And so when staff spoke with them to say, if you received something around the ballpark of 12,000, what could you deliver? And they're happy to be agile to rescope the project based on the final budget they receive.
Okay, so where there's no other funders currently here, there are potential funders. And if we were to stick with the 12, could they could come back again to us if they don't?
I don't believe they can for the same project. So no, but the other funders that so far
Visionary.
Oh. You might want to correct me on that, Gary.
Anyhow, okay, moving on.
Aaron?
It's changed, so I'll go to a question now. If there's plenty of money in the pot, why was your recommendation 12 and not 18?
So we wanted to see that there was a collaborative approach to funding, and so with the amount we recommended, there was room for them to seek other partners and other funders and also do some of their own fundraising.
And so then you're confident in your recommendation that the project would go ahead with the amount you recommended?
Based on conversations that staff have had with the school, yes.
Tyler was next, and then Pauline, then Sarah, then Yanni.
Kia ora, Danielle. So we're not sure if we need a rescope or not if we give them the 12.
So they, no matter what their final budget is, from funding from council and from other places and what their fundraising ends up at, they are working with a parent in-house who is happy to adjust the plan accordingly.
Okay, and you might not know this, and you might not either, but I'm just wondering how much a normal playground costs to place around the city. I don't think anyone's here.
Andrew.
We'll play space. What'd you say? Between 100 grand and 20 million.
I think it's important to realise that this is sort of, if you imagine half a laneway, and so this isn't a huge space. And what the school's saying is, with a little bit of money, they can make it a lot more friendly environment. It'll be open to people walking through at night and people during the day. They're just trying to kill two birds with one stone, really.
Sounds like a hell of a deal.
Can you imagine half a laneway, Tyler?
my ideas on laneways are a lot different.
Is Dean's Ave a laneway?
Oh, sorry. My apologies. Stuff apologies.
Here we go. Welcome to politics, Gary.
Righto. So I understand what you're saying, and you're saying that you maybe don't give that to them all, but there is money there, but you want to get other buy-in. But I'm more than happy to do this. So I'm happy to go along with, because Sarah's happy with it, I'm happy with it as the mover and seconder. So that becomes the substantive. So yeah, that's right. That's where I sit. Sarah, you got a question or something?
Yeah. So just clarifying there though. So they have a design. They've got a costing. They'll still need extra funding even if we put 18 in. So that will do collaborative stuff. But if we only put 12 in, they'll have to rescope the design to something smaller.
So yeah, depending on what their final budget is, they will rescope. Their designer is a parent, so has volunteered a lot of time to be able to do the design. But in recent conversations with the school, they're confident that with what they've got so far, they'll be able to start getting underway soon.
Yeah. So they'll be able to do something, but yeah. It's
Okay.
But it's a lot of volunteer labour and all that kind of stuff. Anyway,
All right, so I'm going to put it,
let's
but I'm going to put it. Thank you. But Yanni had one question before I put it.
Sorry, I was wondering how big this space actually is, and I see in the recommendation we're being asked for funding not for green space, but for a sandpit and a shade sail. So
the sandpit is now off the cards. We talked about environmental issues with a sandpit in the middle of town, which I won't really go into any further, but so the redesigning of that. And look, I think it's important to understand that they've got $18,000 more than when we did this application. So they've gone out and more people have come on board. So,
but how big is the actual space?
I don't have the exact square meterage on hand. I understand at its widest point it's 4 meters, and then I couldn't tell you how long.
So it's tiny, basically.
So Phil, I'm just conscious we've spent probably half an hour on $6,000 and we're talking about sandpits at the City Council.
We've probably, the cost of running this room's probably cost the same as what. So I'm going to put this motion. All those in favour? Aye. All those against?
Aye.
Thank you. That's carried. Right. And Joe, who's been sitting patiently down the back, and I'm more than happy to move this. And Mel's happy to second it. Everyone's ready. Everyone's read it. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you very much. Karakia time. we're into it. Now, if we were talking about a sandpit, life would be a lot different. Kia waitia, ti tapu, kia wata, ti ara, ti turiki wakataka ai, ti turiki wakataka ai, obiei, ui, ta. Thank you very much, everyone.